Well, I can honestly say this video was really not on the cards today, if not actually in the future whatsoever, to be honest, because Clair Obscur Expedition 33 was not a game that I ever intended to check out. It had been highly recommended online. A lot of my family members have played the game, and even my brother had recommended it to me, and it just didn't fit with the metric that I was covering on the channel. I typically cover a lot of MMOs here, so to do sort of turn-based RPGs just felt a little bit off. Although, with that said, a couple of my favourite games growing up was Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy VIII. I loved kind of the overworld in 8 and the turn-based combat with kind of action combat elements in it. And he said it's very much like that, but so much better. So I thought I'd check it out. Very, very late to the bandwagon. I feel like the ship has probably sailed in terms of covering this game. But hey, you know, we're here. I don't necessarily do things just to follow trends. I like to just play games that are passionate to me at this point, that I'm passionate about and that I'm having fun with. And I just want to put this on record right now. This game has hit me like an absolute train, and I've only played this game, I'm going to be completely transparent, I think I have about 4.5 to 5 hours of game time in this. That's it. Nothing more than that whatsoever. Normally, I like to put at least 10 to 15 hours in for an initial first impressions, and then a more fleshed out review with a final review that follows after that. But I really couldn't wait to just turn the camera on and just, I guess, ooze my enthusiasm for this game, because I think, to be honest with you, it was a game that I didn't really recognize that I wanted without even really thinking about it. Just playing this game now, there are so many components of franchises that I really love, like the Dark Souls franchise and Final Fantasy, that just go together so well, so cohesively, in an art style that just is so unapologetically beautiful. If I'm being totally honest, for the majority of the 4.5 to 5 hours of gameplay that I've had playing this game, I have pretty much been sat here with my controller just like this. Like, mouth just glued to the floor. There are so many high impact moments in this, whether it be the story beats or whether it be the moment-to-moment gameplay, that just leave you speechless or wanting to just jump from your seat and just be involved in the game itself, because it really, really delivers in a way that I didn't realize a game could anymore. To be honest with you, if you think about the metric and the general design and desire of turn-based RPGs nowadays, apart from the likes of like Baldur's Gate 3, which I guess is more of a CRPG, but the demand isn't really massively there. So for the developers of this game to really go balls to the wall and just create something they want to create, and just something that they love and they're passionate about, I think is really brave and really admirable. And if I'm being honest, what they've executed of what I've seen so far has been second to none. There is a genuinely enjoyable experience here in every single turn, every single nook and cranny that you dive into in Clair Obscur is almost a story in itself. For every alleyway you travel down, there's a story. For every piece of coral, as you can see in the background, that you turn over, there is something to interact with, whether it be paint cages, whether it be enemies, merchants, story beats, companions that you're hanging along with that have all got their own fleshed out storylines. And one thing that I really want to tip my hat to for this game is the fact that it's not afraid to be brutal. Now, I don't want to spoil this game for anyone that hasn't played it yet, but the moment that you set out on your expedition and you land is the moment where the game goes, okay, we're done being nice now. That's it. I was absolutely gobsmacked with what I was presented with when I left the beginning island and started the expedition. And the expedition as a whole, the whole metric and story behind that, and the story behind the paintress, I'm still trying to piece together. But from what I can work out, it is really, really quite dark. Some entity that can kind of paint and summon things into life, that essentially these expedition teams are trying their best wave after wave to cull and really fight back. And it looks to me like most of the expeditions up till this point has failed, until yours is set on its maiden voyage, being Expedition 33. And the game could have quite easily just given you some backstory about, oh, okay, well, this is this expedition, this is what they did, this is Expedition 0, this is 68, whatever. But the way that you go through the story and you pick up individual journals for teams that have come and gone before, and it doesn't just say, oh, this is, they met their demise here. There's a full fleshed out dialogue as to who they were, what they were about, what what location they were set to travel to first, what their objectives were to reach first, and ultimately how they met their demise and where. In order to make this video, I was making a lot of notes. I've kind of got like a little book here that I kind of write things down with. And so most of the notes that I've written, I'm going to be honest, are like short annotations that I've got because I'm so engrossed in the gameplay with just question marks. Like, for example, I've wrote details about like the fracture, which is like this event that happened, I think 100 years ago. And it's been, you know, 67 years since the first expedition left to try and cull the Paintress. And there's something to do with the monolith, which is, I guess, that stone that shows which expedition is due now or what year this is. And I think the point I'm trying to make here is the game sets up a really, really dark narrative that you want to dive into very, very early on. There is a real sense of, oh, okay, like, what is this? What am I looking forward to now? Like, it really sets up the story so well, even without telling you anything. For example, the first area you spawn into, which I believe is called Lumiere, I could have absolutely butchered that, but there are certain elements of the scenery and the ground that look like crystals, these sort of bluish kind of crystallized ooze sort of thing, and it leaves you wondering just like, what's happened here? Like, what's going on? You know, there are so many people out and about that are talking about the expeditions. They refer to a historical event called a gommage, which essentially, to me, it kind of leads me to believe that people get to a certain point in their life where, you know, they're faced to encounter or go through the gommage, whether they like it or not, and therefore a lot of people choose to, you know, do something good with their last few years of their life and go on these expeditions and sacrifice themselves, which, by the way, the expeditions as a whole seem like such a victoriousless voyage. You know, it seems like such a hopeless battle. Wave after wave of these expeditions are just met with absolute slaughter. People just throwing their bodies at the cause, and, you know, at all turns of the dialogue, when you're first entering into the world and you're seeing the recruiters take people on, and you're seeing the scarcity of people each year, you know, and the scarcity of funds each year gradually being dwindled down to put people on these expeditions, you do start to think to yourself, you know, people really don't want to do this. This is not something that you voluntarily sign up for willingly and passionately and go, yeah, this is something I really want to do, unless you've got a real cause. And I think with the more that you get to know the main characters and you start to get their bond, I mean, for example, now, if I go into the menu here, so I've got 3 characters right now. I've got Loon, Gustav, and Maël, and all of their dynamics and their sort of character bonds are starting to show through. Loon is this kind of like hardy, rogue-ish, kind of like mysterious figure that we don't really know much about right now. Gustav is like, he's a proud guy. You know, he wears his heart on his sleeve, but I think he's got a lot of hidden secrets, and there's a real attachment somewhere with Maël that I've just not picked up on yet. He's got this real bond where he just wants to protect her and shield her from all of these things, but I feel like she has got more to bring to the table at this point that we just don't know about. From what I've worked out really early on, the main difference between your expedition and others, and I've wrote it down here, is the fact that Gustav has worked on something called a Lumina converter, which I think other expeditions didn't have, that could potentially convert the chroma or the essence or lumina into something that they can use against the enemies, which of course I've got written down here as Nevrons, which are like these entities, these monsters, boss-like creatures. Some are good, some are bad, some have got hidden agendas, so I'm kind of curious to see how that will pan out. As someone who has fully appreciated the Soul series for a long time, you know, you kind of get familiar with the fact that, all right, when someone dies, they don't technically die, you know, their soul perishes, they go back into the flame and they get reborn again as an undead. Well, it looks like in this game, your soul, or the collective souls of entities, are actually an entity known as chroma, which it gets referenced a lot in this. It gets referenced when you're fighting more powerful enemies as to like, oh, you know, their chroma's radiating, they're really charging up some chroma, or when someone dies, a lot of people say like, oh, their chroma is still with them, or, you know, their chroma is like glazed over. So I'd be really interested to see how that pans out. There's just so many like little tidbits here and there that just make you hooked and just want you to dive deeper, and that's before you even get to the combat. And I just want to say this on record right now, the combat in this game, I'm going to be completely transparent, is phenomenal. Like, honestly, there is not a single thing that I would change about the way it plays at all. I love turn-based games, always have done, probably always will. I love the idea of being able to take your own time, making meaningful choices that can weigh on the outcome of battles. But the way this works is that every single party member of your expedition kind of intertwines and feeds off of another. Some have abilities that will cause weakness to fire, and some will kind of jump on that and use that weakness to create massive damage. My elf, for example, she can swap into different damage forms, like offensive stance, she can go into defensive stance, and then she can go into some hyper damage stance, which puts her at a bit of a weakness as well, but she does like crazy damage. Now, it's one thing landing your abilities, and that feels really good in itself, timing those button presses, but one thing above all else that makes the combat in this game absolutely second to none is when you land your parries. Hearing that absolute thunderous crash of that feedback when you hit a parry, a perfect parry, and then you slow-mo hit a critical attack as you then riposte the enemy and for like massive damage. Like, for example, early on, there is a quite a hard enemy. It's like, I can't remember what it is, like some sort of sentry. It's got like green aura surrounding it. I don't think you're supposed to fight it early on, but I just did anyway, and I died like 40 times, but I ended up killing it. There are so many moments in that where you have to either get a perfect dodge or a perfect parry, or you just get one shot. And training your brain to hit those parries is something else. And when you do land them, because they're so hard fought for, it feels unbelievably good. Quite often they will critical hit the enemy for massive damage. The sound effects when you do so is just incredible. Stereotypically in turn-based RPGs, you're not really worried about watching what the enemy does, because you play out your attack, you do damage, they damage you, and then it's just a race to see who dies first. Whereas in this, you really have to pay attention to the enemy's wind-up attacks. You have to pay attention on the screen to see, are they light attacking, are they fast attacking, are they heavy attacking, and you get to know the patterns of certain enemies, and you genuinely look forward to timing those dodges and timing those parries so well, and that in itself becomes almost more rewarding than beating the fight in general. Even the most basic of attacks have got real weight to them. The particle effects are sensational. When you, for example, with Gustav, when you've done enough basic attacks and like other skill abilities, and you can charge up his overcharge or whatever his ability is on the X button, being able to charge that up and then hit the perfect timings to do massive damage always puts just such a vast smile on my face. The moment-to-moment music shift when you go into combat is straight out of Final Fantasy. I'm not saying they've copied it, that's not what I mean at all, but just that dynamic shift where you feel like something is really happening here. Like, this is something really to kind of just absorb, and the music in general, I mean, this absolutely goes without saying. It is a masterpiece. There's not been a single song that I have heard in this game that I actually dislike at all. And in fact, the theme song, the main menu song, or whatever it is, the first one that plays out, has been in my head for 2 days now. Absolutely, at every moment, I'm like, Clair Obscur, no, Clair Obscur, like constantly in the back of my head, I'm like going over this thing over and over again. And it's just amazing. Like the melodies that you hear in the background, the angelic voices, it is very Final Fantasy-esque, but I feel like the twist, the sort of French twist, the artistic direction that you get from not just the music but the art style really works. And yeah, I've got to touch again on the really gut punch moments, dude, because the moments that hit the hardest in this game are always the moments that you don't expect, and to see some of the atmosphere and story changes just come out of left field and just completely blindside me has been unreal to kind of witness, and really refreshing, because there are so many games that we play now where it's like, oh, good guy fights bad guy wins first, and then you go on and you kill the bad guy and nothing really that bad happens. Whereas in this, I mean, early doors, it's not good for the expedition at all. I mean, it's quite dark, and you see some of these thoughts that Gustav's having early on when he's just met with this dread, this really just out of nowhere fear that he hasn't really come to realize that he would ever face. I don't think he realized how much danger he would be in doing this expedition. I fully believe he thought he was going to go in, and just get out and everything will be fine and dandy. But he has real moments of inner remorse, you know, inner hatred of himself, and at his darkest moments when he thought there was no way out, there was someone there, you know, there was your party members to really sort of take a step back and say, hey, we need to get through this, like we need to bunker down. And the voice acting, I'm sorry if this is really scattergun, like my brain's going a million miles an hour and I'm just so passionate about playing this goddamn game, but the voice acting is so convincing. There are so many games that I have played over the years where the voice acting is like talk, wait for next person to talk, 2-second delay, that person talks, but there are actually like interloping and interweaving conversations between the main protagonists. Like there's an argument that happens, kind of an argument, kind of a dispute between, I'm still getting to know the names, guys, I'm really sorry, between Gustav and Loon, and you actually hear them like pretty much starting their conversation as the next one is ending, but then and like cutting each other off, and the facial animations, the human responses to trauma, to happiness, to moments of resolve is it's really, really well done. It really is incredibly well done. I think the game has done an incredible job early on, as I mentioned, of kind of implanting the story, because there are now so many things that are happening around me that just feel so much more raw because I've got a general understanding of what's going on. Like, for example, if I'm walking past some dead expedition members, I don't just look at them like, oh, they're a part of the scenery. You start to paint a picture in your head based upon what you've seen as to what could have happened, what's led them to this demise, like how do we avoid that? And as you start to pick up the expedition notes and find out what's gone on with different expeditions and, you know, what the whole purpose of the expedition is, it sends my mind racing. So honestly, as a first impressions, I know this has been a lot, and I'm sorry this has been a lot to take in, but I am absolutely mind blown by this game so far. If you've got the same thoughts, same feelings, let me know down below in the comments. If you disagree, of course, let me know as well. Like the video if you enjoyed, to follow for more Clair Obscur and loads of other games that we cover here on the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video.